I'm excited to get going and give you all the knowledge I have on the resale industry, specifically eBay. I'm a guru at eBay, but before I jump into our processes and our systems, I want to give you a little bit of background on myself. My name is Cameron Mitchell. I have been reselling for 6 years. I have been a full-time reseller of 4 years. I grew up playing sports my entire life in Jacksonville, Florida. I had the opportunity to go play Division I basketball at Stony Brook University in Long Island, New York. But while I was at school, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. There was no direction or anything after basketball. It was just basketball and school. And then I hit this point where I graduated and I had no idea where I was going. I jumped into the corporate world. I got into medical sales for a company called Concentra, where I was selling workers' comp to businesses all over the country. It was great money. I mean, the benefits were really, really good, but I never felt fulfilled with what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. There was always something missing. There was no passion behind what I was doing, so I felt like I needed a change. I've always been into fashion. I've always been into sneaker culture because it coincided with basketball and hooping. So I went that route. I started selling some of my personal items, my own sneakers and my own clothes on Grail, Depop, and eBay, and I saw some potential in it. I had quickly found a side hustle that I was actually passionate about that was actually making pretty good money. So I talked to my now wife and brought to the table the idea of me potentially quitting my corporate job and pursuing this first time. I had full support from my family to pull the trigger and run and chase this dream of reselling clothes online to make a living. Now, when I first started, it was tough. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just listing clothes and making money. There was no organization, there was no systems, there was no processes in place. And eventually that came back to bite me in the ass. Learned my systems, I learned from my mistakes, I ended up perfecting my craft, finding better products, learning how to optimize my listings, learning storage and inventory upkeep, everything under the sun. I completely divulged myself into learning about eBay and making myself a better full-time reseller. I eventually perfected my craft, went on to grow 2 stores to over $1.2 million in revenue. I have been able to take other financial ventures when it came to the money that I made from eBay, such as real estate. I opened my own brick and mortar store location in Jacksonville, Florida called Collect Jacks that specializes in vintage and sneakers. And I've also kind of dabbled with some rental car fleets. So I have been able to take the money that I have from eBay and turn it into other ventures and a successful living for myself. Now that I have done that, my store is now automated, my eBay is now automated. Now I want to focus on teaching and helping others grow and scale their eBays so they can take that money and go on to other ventures and scale. That's why we are here today. That's why I'm so excited to share my information, because it was a journey. It was a long journey, a lot of trials and tribulations, like I said, but I feel I have perfected my craft and have created a blueprint which would be easily implementable to grow and scale that eBay business of yours. The first order of business is setting up your eBay the proper way. I always tell my clients whenever I bring them on board, you want to portray your eBay business as an actual business. You don't want to be portrayed as just another reseller online flipping items that they found at the thrift store. You want to give your image or your brand an image, a brand image that you are an actual legitimate business taking this very seriously and taking the proper steps to serve them as a customer. The first order of business in being able to do that is creating a business name, creating a logo. Don't just use your name. Come up with something that maybe fits your niche or fits whatever category that you're selling in consistently. There are so many AI logo generators out there. I mean, the power of AI is now crazy, but you're able to go and find something that can fit your niche and give you that brand image that we're looking for from a professional standpoint. Now, the second thing that is most important when setting up your store is your store policies. Now, what store policies am I talking about? First and foremost, shipping. I recommend personally to everybody that you should implement free shipping on all products. Now, when you are doing free shipping, make sure that you're calculating so you know that you can still make ROI while implementing free shipping. ROI is return on investment, making sure that your profit margin is still there. Always, always, always offer free shipping if you can. Buyers love it. I mean, put yourself in the buyer's shoes. Somebody is going to pick a item that has free shipping over an item that has $7 to $8 shipping on the same exact item at the same exact price point. I mean, it's kind of common sense. So, free shipping if you can, and then return policy. Accept all returns. Put yourself back in that buyer's shoes, right? If you're buying an item, maybe you didn't see something in the pictures, you weren't really paying attention to the pictures or whatnot, or the description. You get that item, it doesn't fit the way that you thought it would fit, or there's some flaws or some holes or whatever. You're going to want to return that item. If not, if you don't give them the option to return that item, then what does that turn into? It turns into negative feedback, which could ultimately impact your store and your seller rating. So I highly suggest to do free shipping if you can and if you can afford it, depending on what your ROI or profit would be on that particular piece. And I would also suggest that you always accept all returns. Now, I make them pay for the shipping for the return, but other than that, definitely accept all returns. Now that you have your store set up on eBay, it's time to set up the back end. Now, the main question is, what do I need to set up the back end? These are going to be the supplies that you will need that are super crucial to setting up your store to make it as smooth as possible. Number one is a thermal label printer. I live and die by these things. You can go on Amazon right now, get them for like 89, 90 bucks, whatever. They're super accessible to eBay. You can literally just print the label 4x6 right there from eBay. Take it off the label as a sticker and stamp it right there on the box or the poly mailer that you're sending out. I live and die by these things. I mean, I think the day and age of paper printers, the old school printers are kind of a thing of the past. Definitely would suggest getting a thermal label printer. Now, the second thing is going to be poly mailers. This is essential for your shipping process. You can get multiple sizes. I have poly mailers that accommodate t-shirts, jackets, pants, and then miscellaneous things such as like plush toys and things of that nature. So they come in all different sizes. You can get them on Amazon for pretty cheap at bulk too. I think I buy like 200 to 300 at a time. And when I buy them, I try to buy them the same color as what my branding, which I talked about in the first segment, the same color as like my logo and my brand aesthetic. So just try to match it up. It's the little touches and the little details that really make a difference, but poly mailers are definitely an essential. After the poly mailers, you're going to need boxes. Certain things such as hats and sneakers and shoes are going to have to go in boxes or they could potentially get damaged, especially hats. It's going to be kind of hard to fit a pair of sneakers or a pair of shoes and poly mailers. I'm sure you can do it, but that's really not a good look. Definitely get some boxes, some hat boxes, and then some sneaker boxes. I think you can get them in bulk from like Uline or Granger. That's what I do. I think I buy like 300 to 400 at a time on both sizes. And the last thing, I mean, you can't tape up any boxes without any tape. So you're going to need tape and a tape gun. I'll kind of add on to that, but I will talk about this later. You need some type of inventory system and some type of storage system in place. I mean, I would highly suggest trying to get a storage unit if you're trying to scale and upgrade your inventory. It's kind of hard to run a business out of your house or apartment unless you have the storage space in your garage. I mean, my wife used to get pissed at me because when I first started, I was trapping out the house, man. I was definitely trapping out of the house, and I had clothes lined up in our patio, and she was not very pleased at that. So, some type of space to store your clothes where your wife isn't mad at you. Simple as that. All right, now this is the best part to me. This is the most fun aspect of this business. This is why I got into this business, and that's actually going out and sourcing inventory. To me, it's like modern day treasure hunting. I've heard a lot of people compare it to that, but this is by far the best part to me. So let's talk about how and where to source your inventory. For me, starting out, I did what everyone else did. I went to the thrift stores, I did flea markets, I did estate sales, I did the Goodwill bins, and I did yard sales and garage sales. I think those, if you are a newbie, those are the five main things that I would focus on in regards to getting consistent inventory. Let's start with the racks. The racks are great. I mean, from a clothing standpoint, they have everything that you need. All the mall brands are usually in the racks. You can find some vintage, just not as consistent as like maybe like the Goodwill bins or like at the flea market, but you can find some every now and then. The racks are really good for sneakers and shoes. That's where I started. That's where home base was for me, and I made a lot of money from going to the racks. If you're only trying to source vintage though, I wouldn't really say that's the best place to go. I would consider going to the Goodwill bins or flea markets. But for your mall name brands like your North Faces, Patagonias, Nike, Adidas, Robert Graham, those types of brands are definitely going to be in the racks. I still dive into the racks every now and then just to kind of see what I can find to get that thrill. Flea markets, I love a good flea market, man. I travel all up and down the state of Florida going to flea markets and sourcing inventory. It's a great way to source inventory, especially for me with vintage. I have made a killing from flea markets. And the good thing about flea markets is that you can make good relationships with these sellers of these flea markets. That way, when they find the type of items that you are looking for, they come back to you, they hit you up first, they say, come back, come through, because they know that you're going to spend the money on those types of items. So build relationships, and you can also negotiate prices at a flea market as well. At the racks and at the bins, they have a set price. There's no negotiating. So you're able to negotiate at a flea market, which is also a plus. Now, the only thing that I don't like about the flea market is having to wake up so damn early because, I mean, the early bird gets the worm in that situation, as cliche as it sounds. It's the truth, it's the reality. You kind of have to get there first to kind of get the best stuff. So be prepared for that. Keep that in your mind. But flea markets are definitely a good way to go. The Goodwill bins. This is by far where I spent the most of my time and the majority of my time when I was first coming up in the resale industry. I mean, it's kind of hard to beat a pay by the pound method. But if you're not familiar with the Goodwill bins, you're able to go in there, sift through a ton of clothes, bales that are broken down and thrown into bins, and sift through them and kind of see what you can find. I mean, there's a little bit of everything in the bins. They have raw bales, which are like the overload from the stores and things that have been sorted or liquidation buyouts or stuff like that. And then you have your salvage, which as a vintage seller, I love salvage. It's basically brand new donations, never been touched, never been washed. They don't sort it, they don't pull it out because it has holes or distressing or anything. It's basically as raw as it gets. It's never been touched probably except by the original owner. So you get a little bit of both at the bins. You find your name brands and you find a good amount of vintage as well. So highly suggest the bins. And another thing with the bins too, build relationship in your bins. There's going to be people in there that aren't looking for the same thing that you are. You build a relationship with them, you coach them up a little bit to show them the things that you are looking for. You never know, you build that relationship the right way, they're going to start feeding you good inventory that will fit your niche. So definitely build relationships in the bins as well, and it's hard to beat. I mean, pay by the pound. I think you pay like, now I think it's like $2.20 a pound. Hard to beat. That's like two or three t-shirts. So definitely suggest the bins. And then you have your estate sales and your garage sales. I actually personally love estate sales. I've had some of my biggest hauls from estate sales. I mean, I had a TikTok that went viral from an estate sale where I bought like 300 NASCAR pieces from this one house. The thing about estate sales is that you need to do your research before you go. There's a website that you can use. I think it's estatesales.net that you can go through and see pictures and descriptions of what types of items are going to be sold at that estate sale. Make sure that that description and those pictures match what you're kind of looking for, or you're going to be wasting your time kind of driving around the city trying to find an estate sale and good inventory. So just do your due diligence, but estate sales can be really good. Yard sales and garage sales, on the other hand, I don't really like that much. Like I said, you have to wake up early as shit for those, and I'm not really an early riser like that. At the same time, you can find some things. I just don't like how there's not enough information out there, and it's kind of like whatever you find, you find. I like to know what I'm getting into before I go in there. So, not a big fan of garage sales and yard sales, but that doesn't mean you can't be and that you can't find stuff at garage sales and yard sales. Let's talk about product photos. Believe it or not, product photos really matter on eBay. You want to make your product photos, just like I said at the beginning, professional as possible. Like a business is taking these photos, like you are representing a real brand and not just laying a piece of clothing on your bed or hanging it up on your door to take your pictures. You want it to be presentable as possible with some type of brand aesthetic and some type of consistency. Product photos start with the lighting. You need good lighting. I mean, I got my lighting set up from Amazon. I think it was like 40 bucks. I bought two studio lights, two studio box lights, and they work perfectly fine. So, lighting setup is key. If you are searching on eBay and you shop on eBay, you know, like when you see a bad picture and like where the lighting isn't right, you can't see the item clearly. The blue is a little yellow. That's because the lighting is off. So make sure the lighting is good. I mean, as a reseller and someone that's sourcing inventory on eBay, that's good because I would probably buy that item because they're probably not going to price it accordingly because they don't care. But for outsider looking in, someone, the regular person going to shop, they want something that's going to be professional, good, grade A, feel like it's coming from a business, packaged nicely. So just keep that standard on your pictures as well. So with your product photos as well, you are going to adjust your camera settings. So for all of my product photos, I use my iPhone. I use my iPhone for all of my product photos. Now you are going to want to tweak your settings a little bit within your iPhone. You want all of your pictures to be one by one in a square format. Okay, this fits eBay's algorithm. There are posts out there, there are articles out there that they prefer their sellers to put all of their pictures in a one by one format. So please follow that because your pictures can get cut off if they're in a 4x3 portrait format. So follow the one by one format. Now, when it comes to actually taking the pictures, background is key. I know a lot of people that cut out the background. That's perfectly fine. I don't use that method. I know eBay has their own background removal method as well. The only reason I don't like that, although it does look professional, it does look good, is sometimes the background does not get cut out all the way and you have to go back and manually cut it out yourself. So that's the only turn off for me when it comes to that. What I do, I have a storage unit that has polished finished concrete floors that are like light gray, neutral gray, and it works magnificently. It makes all of the colors pop off of it. It makes the whites brighter, which I love, and it's easily clear of what the colors are, what the graphics look like, all the details are there because my lighting setup is also enhancing the photo as well. I have a mantra when it comes to product photos: flat lay or die. I live and die by the flat lay. I never hang pieces up and take pictures of them for product photos because the graphics can get wrinkled or not look portrayed right. So always do a flat lay. Make sure that everything on the garment is presentable. This is very, very important. Before you take any pictures, you need to prep all of your items. You need to prep them. So if they're wrinkled as hell, go ahead, steam them out, iron them. If they have stains or whatever, spot treat them or OxyClean them. Make sure they are presentable. I mean, businesses and clothing brands that sell online, they aren't just laying down clothes that are super wrinkled and super stained up and distressed and whatnot. They make it presentable. They make it professional and aesthetically pleasing. So make sure that you take care of your clothes before you take pictures of them because that goes a long way. This part that I'm going to talk about is by far the most important thing that I can teach you or tell you about in this entire course. And it's about listings. You have to list every single day to make consistent money on eBay. The more you list, the more money you will make. The more consistently you list, the more you will feed into eBay's algorithm. eBay rewards consistency. So if you're listing consistently, you will get consistent sales. Mark my word, I guarantee it. If you do not, come to me, tell me I'm an idiot, but I have too much experience in this to know that if you are consistently listing, you will consistently make money. Now, disclaimer, it has to be brands and pieces that you know can move and popular brands. If you list consistently, you will consistently make money. I just wanted to put that out there. I had to really, 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 really iterate that because that is the biggest thing that I could teach you. All right, so let's get into the art of actually listing on eBay. So when it comes to your listing, first things first, the title. Now with the title, you want to use those max characters to their full potential. I think eBay gives you 80 max characters. Use every single one of them that you can. My template is super simple. It is the age of the garment or the piece or the item. So whether that's vintage, Y2K, new with tags, new without tags, whatever, it's the age. It's the brand. So that's Nike, Patagonia, Adidas, whatever. It's the type of item. So if it's like a sweatshirt, a chino pant, a cargo short, a hat, whatever, the type of item is next. Then you got the size, whether it's men's XL, woman's 8, Then you have your color. I mean, I'm not going to explain colors to you, but I mean, you get it. The color, and then you have the year that it was made, whether it was copyrighted at 1998 or do you believe that it's in the 90s because it's single stitch. I do that as well. And if it's new with tags, I will just say brand new at the end. So you're reiterating and spelling out the fact that this piece is actually brand new. So that is my template. Use it, fill out those max characters, and make sure that you fill your title with keywords. So popular words that are trendy. So if it's like Y2K, you want to put in like Y2K cutie, Y2K punk. So stay up to trend with those keywords and make sure that you insert those into your title, because Google has an SEO system that rewards keywords and boosts those with good keywords to the top of their search charts. The second part of the listing is going to be your description. It's going to be the same thing. You want to be as rich as possible as you can with those keywords. The good thing about eBay these days is that they do actually have the AI description now. So you can use AI to map out a description for your item. I use it all the time. Go ahead and proofread it. Make sure that there are valid keywords that pertain to your item and pertain to a theme or a trend that's going on right now, but make sure it's super rich, because what that does, not only will that get you on the search charts for eBay, but that will actually take you outside of eBay and make you show up for Google as well, which is huge. So for example, if you have a vintage Nike center swoosh hoodie that's olive green, you want to go ahead and be descriptive as possible in that title and in that description, because you can show up on Google, because no one produces those anymore from a vintage standpoint. They're vintage. They're going to be like one of ones or one of 20s or whatnot. But if your description is good enough, you will show up on Google and you will be there. So make sure you are descriptive as possible and use all the SEO keywords that you can in your description. Next thing is going to be your item specifics. Those are the tabs you click and the information that you're clicking through on your item. For me personally, I know there's a lot there, but I try to fill out at least 75% to 85% of those item specifics, because you got to think there are some very anal people out there that care about those types of small details and actually search for those types of small details, whether a sweater is mohair, wool, or cashmere, or whether a t-shirt was manufactured in 1960, 1970, 1980, or whatever. There are so many things on there that you are going to want to fill out, because, I mean, don't put it past people to search the weird things that you're filling out, okay? So you want to be descriptive as possible. You want your title to be as full as possible with as many keywords as you can, and then you want to fill out your item specifics as much as you can. That is going to be the ideal listing for your product. This is what I struggled with most when I was coming up in the resale industry and running my eBay store, and that's organization. I mean, growing up in school, I was the kid that only brought one folder to 6 classes. I was always losing things. I never kept track of anything, never kept a planner or anything along those lines. So when it transitioned to something like this, and I was seeing that I was losing money because I wasn't organized and my business was getting negatively affected because I wasn't organized, I had to flip a switch and I had to change. I am now by far 30 times more organized than I was, because I knew how important it was to be able to scale my business and how vital it was to scaling my business. So I put a keen effort on organizing my inventory and speeding up my process when it came to shipping and handling and inventory storage. I use what is called the box methods. I'm sure if you've done research on eBay and storage methods, you've seen other like YouTubers and other popular resellers use this method. I use it. It works phenomenally. What the box method is you get a bunch of cardboard boxes. I think I probably have like 600 of them in my storage unit right now, all on industrial racks. And each box has a number through it. So for example, the first box is going to be 0 through 10. Now what you do is you take your item, and each item is going to get an individual SKU, and it's going to be labeled and put into that box, right? So say I have 10 items, I number them 1 through 10, and I put them in that box. So in the box 1 is going to be item number 1 through 10. And the good thing about eBay is when you are doing your listings, you can give each item a custom SKU number. So that way, when this item sells, you see exactly what that SKU is, and you know exactly what box to go grab it and be able to ship it out efficiently. The box method works wonders. I mean, I haven't changed. I've been using it for 3 years now. I don't think I can do any other method. I mean, you can scale it to any type of size because the numbers can just keep going up and up. I mean, there's infinity numbers, so you can scale it to infinity. So it's a great way to stay organized, especially if you're between that beginner level to really making probably like 15K in 90 days. To get a box system and a storage system in place, it is a tremendous help, and it goes a long way to streamlining your business, because I took a lot of L's when it came to organization when I first started. I had to cancel orders, I lost pieces, didn't ship items out in time because I couldn't find them in time, and it negatively affected my seller profile. I mean, I've gone from top rated to above standard, and then above standard to below standard because I couldn't ship items out on time. Cases piled up, you get negative feedback. So organization is really, really key in this industry, so make sure you have some type of system in place that helps you organize. Let's talk about pricing and pricing strategy for your listings on eBay. It is vital in this industry to do market research and understand what brands and what types of items sell at what cost. It's vital. You need to know whatever you're picking up, what it's worth. If you know what it's worth and you're buying it at the right price, then you know your profit right there on the spot. So it's up to you to do the research, do the market research, do some brand recognition to really understand what's moving quickly and what's not moving quickly, and to stay away from. The name of the game in pricing out items, though, is you want to be the most feasible option for buyers. Me personally, I try to stay above 35% ROI on all the products that I source. So if, as long as I know that I'm staying above that ROI, I can play into the factors of the fees that coincide with selling an item on eBay. eBay takes 13% of all your sales. There's no questions asked. That is the eBay fee. So as long as you keep that in your mind and you know that that profit margin is above where you want it to be, then you will make money and you will be profitable. If you stay within that 35% range to 50% range, up so on and so forth, because you're going to find items that are going to be worth a lot more than a 35% ROI. So as long as you stay above 35%, though, you will be good. Now, I like to promote all of my listings as well. I promote all my listings at 7% or above, depending on what I buy the item at, though. Say I buy an item at $5, but it's reselling at $75. I know I have a lot more wiggle room to promote and then maybe lower the actual listing price so I can move it faster. The name of the game in this industry is going to be your sell-through rate. You want to sell through items as quick as you possibly can, because that's going to mean more feedback and obviously more money in your pocket, so you can go and reinvest into more inventory. So focus on your sell-through rate and focus on the most feasible option to move those items as quick as you possibly can. Now, if an item is not moving and it's stale, if it's been sitting in your store for 30, 60, 90 days, it's time to change something, man. I mean, I know a lot of you guys are probably holding on to prices and certain things and certain items at a reasonable price, or what you think in your mind that it should be. But if an item is sitting longer in my store than 30 days, there is no way that I am not going back to adjust that price. I actually have a team of 2 VAs. Their only objective for working for me is relisting old items. And now, when I relist old items, I do not mean relist old items. What I have come found to be true, instead of relisting it, you're going to sell similar. Now, what that does, that is going to create a new item number and a new listing for that item. It's not just going to relist that same stale item. It's going to create a whole new number and potentially get you back on the algorithm into the searches again. I mean, I used to bulk relist. I mean, there's a feature in eBay where you can sit there and pick out 50 to 100 items that have been sitting and just relist them. And then I learned about this sell similar strategy and I implemented that, and it's been a game changer. I've seen my sell through rate on those items increase substantially. Always sell similar, do not relist, and make sure that you are keeping track of what items are stale and what items have been sitting in your store for a long time. The last and final piece to the puzzle is customer service and customer engagement. It is super crucial and super important for you to stay on top of your customer service and customer engagement. Now, what does that entail? That means replying to all messages. eBay actually, believe it or not, keeps track if you are replying to messages and being on top of staying in communication with buyers. Because if you're not, it kind of feeds into their algorithm. Prove me if I'm wrong, but I've seen it. The more that you are engaged with your customers, the better off you're going to be and the better off your seller profile is going to be. So always answer all messages or any questions that any potential buyer may have. Another important piece is that you make sure that there are no defects or open cases on your seller profile. I have gotten bitten in the ass so many times because there has been a case open, I didn't respond to it in time, and then it negatively affects my seller profile. So always make sure you're on top of your cases and your defects. Your seller profile should be treated like gold to you. That is your livelihood right there. The better off that your seller profile is, the higher rated you are, top rated, whatever, the more money you're going to make. So treat your seller profile and your seller rating like gold. Lastly, the biggest thing is going to be streamlining your way into top rated seller. Okay. And how do you do that? There's multiple ways. It's the things that I just talked about with customer service, making sure that you don't have any defects or cases on your account. But then it's also feedback. You want to make sure that your feedback is on point. Luckily, eBay helps you with this so much. You can actually set up automatic feedback, automatic positive feedback for anybody that buys an item for you. Now, what does this do? This entices them, as long as the transaction went smoothly, to then leave you positive feedback, which will ultimately help you get to that top rated level faster. There's two things that coincide with streamlining your top rated seller status. It's going to be customer service and it's going to be sell through rate. Also, your shipping. That's why I told you that organization is key. You want to make sure that your shipments are going off in a timely manner and are getting to your customers at the right time. Because if they're not, it's going to affect your seller profile and you do not want that. The gold standard is top rated seller. That's why I called this top rated ecom. So make sure you do everything in your power to get to that point.